Joe! Joe on Joe is the only podcast where Joe talks about Joe. And now, your host, Joe Slepsky.
Hello again, everybody, and welcome back to Joe on Joe. That is the name of this show, and I am your host, Joe Slepsky. Excited this week because we are doing what I've been avoiding doing for the last few weeks. We're drawing a full body today on Draw with Joe. So new listeners, welcome back, or welcome in. Old listeners, welcome back. Young listeners, welcome back. This is the podcast where I've covered every episode of the cartoon for G.I. Joe. We've done DIC. We've done Extreme. We've covered all of the issues of the G.I. Joe Real American Hero comic book by Marvel. And now we are working our way through the How to Draw G.I. Joe books put out by Blackthorn Publishing. This one, issue number 2. And we are, if you're listening to this, as I've said in these last few weeks, I'm doing my best to keep the audio peppered up with commentary, but these are primary video ones. So if you have the opportunity to go over to YouTube, check out the Joe and Joe YouTube channel, and you can see this live. You can also see a live, not live, I guess not live, but raw and uncut. You can also see a video of this on our Patreon at patreon.com/JoeOnJoePod. That's where these videos get uploaded early, a couple days early. The whole archives of the show are on there. The archives are on the regular feed as well, but I think they're a little easier to find on the old Patreon there. And you could help support the show there if you want. You could also help support the show by checking out our wonderful sponsors. They are the Movies in a Meal podcast. They're awesome. They talk about movies. They talk about meals. They talk about TV shows. They talk about genre stuff. I think we're all just hyped. I can't wait for the Deadpool Wolverine movie. I think it's going to be great. Literally just finished watching a Wolverine movie right before we got on, which I will talk about as we go along. But that movie looks fantastic. I did see this weekend. What's it called? Long Legs. And that is a peculiar movie, as they like to say, directed by Anthony Perkins' son, Oswald Perkins. It was pretty good. Nick Cage was in it. He was pretty great. We enjoyed it quite a bit. Lots of questions. Had to go online, frankly, to find some answers. But solid movie. It was actually my birthday weekend, and so me and Toilet Teal hit the movies. We also hit the John Williams orchestra show at the Hollywood Bowl. That is where they do it every year, and most years previously, I believe John conducted it, but this year, he's up there, so his health wasn't great, so it was conducted by David Newman, whose father, and I forget his father's first name, but his father was a big time musical conductor and such in Hollywood for years. He was talking, I guess his whole family is. I'm sure he does well too. But it was great. Like, he did a great job. Everyone did. And so I am right now eyeballing something that should be a little higher, just a little higher, to quote the great Lando Calrissian. So if you're watching right now, I'm drawing in Zartan's hips. I'm not wasting any time to start today because we're doing a full body thing. I'm getting a jump start. I thought about doing some of this beforehand, but then I was like, no, I think that's kind of the fun of the show is doing it in real time and seeing, how far we can get in, hopefully the allotted half hour of the show. So I'm doing this now. What I'm doing is, putting in the shapes, the circular body shapes of Zartan. We're following page 18 from issue number 2, which is the his hand right about there, which is the he's standing in. It's not called profile. What is that? Like he's facing the camera. It's a real standard tough guy look. Like he's, you know, he's facing the camera and just kind of his fists clenched, so to speak. And so what I'm doing is I'm measuring out where the lengths and dimensions of his elbows and whatnot will be. Yeah. So I guess, but I'm also in the middle of my commercial read. So, so check out Movies in a Meal podcast. They're online. They're great. And I'm sure they're talking long legs this week. I know they'll be talking Deadpool in a couple of weeks. And speaking of a couple of weeks, we're 3 weeks. Well, 3 when this drops, I guess it'd be 2 episodes away. But I'm like 2 or 3 weeks, whatever it is, from my contribution to Cobra Convergence. And that'll be on the 31st of the month. Spoiler alert, it will be something along these lines. So it's going to be something Draw with Joe related. I am currently hatching a plan. I've not executed that plan yet, but I am working out the kinks of an idea that I think you'll enjoy. And I ran it by the missus. She thinks it's a fun idea. So now I just got to execute. And you will be the judge. But either way, it'll be a Cobra-tastic time for all. Certainly a Joe-tastic time. I feel like with the exception maybe of Cold Slither, definitely with Cold Slither. Most of my Cobra Convergence stuff hasn't been super Cobra related, but that's okay. This one I'm going to try to make, but I don't know that I will. So I think this Zartan's I think he's going to come off a little stocky. I do, just based on these dimensions. So I'm going to drop this leg down a little bit. And if you're watching, of course, you're on the YouTube page. If you're on Instagram, you can say hi at Joe on Joe Pod, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram at Joe on Joe Pod. Send me an email to joeandjoepod@gmail.com and say hello. Let me know what you think. I'm also this week I'm doing. Oh yeah, there you go. I'm using a new camera this week. This is a new. They call them a document camera. So I think the image is a little better, but now I'm seeing that it's zoomed in a little too much. So what I'll do is I'll move the page to match the camera. But I like it though, because it's sitting over here. If you're watching, it's on my left side instead of hooked up to the microphone on the, literally on the, my camera used to dangle from the microphone. And so that was really awkward and probably made for some weird viewing. So anyone that tuned in, I appreciate you. But I went out and I was like, I need to get a functional camera for this stuff. So, yeah. So I think he's going to be a little high-waisted and he's going to be a little stocky. But you know what? There's been worse things in life. So it says, now for the big time. This is Zartan's full figure. Start with a box and stick diagram, placing parts in proper relation to each other. Sticks indicate his arms. Next, rectangular shapes with head, chest, hips, and elbow. Wedges for his hands and feet. He's a huge man, so we're going to make him 8.5 heads tall. So let's see if we did that. 8.5 heads tall. So that is, head is about 1.5. That is 2. That is 3. That is 4. That is 5. That is 6. So I did about 6 heads. So what can we do? We can do... What I can do is let's do this. You know what? Like, we know this is an issue. So instead of admitting defeat early on, ladies and germs, let's adjust. So we're going to leave the hands where they are and say that the legs are a good height. We're going to extend this upper part of his hips a little bit. We're going to go up with the arrow. And then we're going to bring that barrel chest up. Bring that barrel chest up there. And then that's going to erase his head. Yeah, see what you can do. See, this technical, like, I guess correction. It's still not gonna be enough, quite frankly. It looks like I'm adding on about an inch or maybe half an inch, but it'll be a little better than it was. But like this type of technical correction, that's something I never used to do. So his there, boom, boom, boom. His left arm, the way they have it's a little foreshortened. His right arm, not as much. It's dipped down a little bit. That's funny. The elbow still is in the same spot, but everything's just a little higher. There's that. We're going to go there. We're going to go there. And we're going to go there. All right. So I added about a head, close to, maybe. So a little better, a little more proportioned, but that'll have to do. I'm doing my pencil rough. All right. Okay. All right, so start turning the sticks into cylinders now and draw through the ends of the cylinders. So now we've got these sticks, right? So now they're saying you're making the torso. So it is literally, imagine, oh, that's funny. So his legs, they're saying, are here. Imagine you're a serial killer, or you're watching a movie with like a murderer dude, and he's cutting the body up into torsos, right? So he's making torsos. That's what you're doing now. You're turning the sticks into the pieces of a body that you've now can cut up and properly carry out of your apartment or condo, or home. Frankly, I'm not gonna deny the murderer's homeowner their own rampage. I'm not here for that. If you're a homeowner and you want to go on a ramp, you do it. I'm just kidding. Don't do it. That's a terrible idea. This type of circular torso. This is something I rarely ever did. Really, I never did. In fact, like my instinct was to just get in there and start drawing. But now that puts his hip there. Yeah, man. Okay. So he's really high waisted. So that puts the top of the hip there. Here, we're going to do that a little bit. And then they're saying that. So if you're watching, or if you're just listening, rather, what I'm doing is I'm following the stick guidelines that we're relatively happy with. I was pretty happy with. And we're saying, okay, those are going to be, that's literally the bones. Think Wolverine. That's his adamantium bones. And now we're drawing the rough blocks of what his arm and his forearms would be, and treating them like they are like square, or well, circular, but like pieces of wood. So if you were looking at those wooden those dolls that you get at art shows, that's what we're basically converting this into. All right. That's a way to help that head, actually, just shorten it, bring that head down, make the head shorter, then the body looks a little more in proportion. All right, so we're going to do the line down the middle. We're going to do his eyes, do his nose, and be about here. His mouth is about there. Yeah, so talking about San Diego and San Diego Comic-Con, if anyone is going to be there, well, I will be there, certainly. So if you are going to be there, please reach out and we will definitely meet up and say hello. That'd be awesome. But specifically, so let's see, drop a line from where the neck meets the front of the chest right down to the floor. This line is called the center of balance. It always intersects a line drawn from one foot to the other. So they're talking about this line, which is the center of balance, and that. We're gonna let's see, make sure we stay on camera a little bit. Okay. Doing this, but I don't want to screw up my actual issue. Here we go. How's that? So our panel is Thursday morning, at 11 a.m. So Thursday the 25th at 11 a.m. Which I was like, oh yeah, it's pretty early in the show, but that's cool. It works. It gets it for me, like it gets it out of the way. Now you start roughing in the uniform and other details. Remember that the clothes wrap around the form and hang on the body parts. Finish the heads and hands now. So now they're saying do the form of his body. So now I'll just start up at the shoulder, and we'll kind of form up his shoulders. So the 25th is the panel that we're on. It's called or it's called So You Want to Start a Podcast. And it's me, David Avalone, and Christian Horn. David Avalone, the writer, comic book writer of books such as Elvira. He's done all the Elvira books. He also does Drawing Blood. That's a book with Kevin Eastman. David's a very nice guy. He's a friend, and one of the cooler like lineage things of his. He's very accomplished himself, but his dad wrote the Planet of the Apes novels, which are really cool. That little bit of trivia. So and the reason I mention that, I'll get to it in a second. So David's great, and he's got a podcast that's called the Writers Block, and it's a bunch of comic book writers that get together and talk industry stuff. And it's a really great podcast, especially if you want to get into like indie comics, because they're all indie dudes. A lot of them have moved on and done some mainstream stuff, but they all come from the indie publishing world. So they've got some really great stories and really relatable stories to like getting started, and just the trials and tribulations of working as a I wouldn't even say struggling, because they're they support themselves, they work right in comic books, but like a like an independent comic book writer, whereas you're not like it's your day to day, it's your bread and butter meal, and you're not a celebrity, but your name is known, and you do really great stuff, and you go from gig to gig. Like it's a realistic way to make your living, and I'm so proud of my friends there that do it. Rylan Grant's one of the hosts, and sorry, I lost my train of thought. And but Dave's on that, but he also does a noir podcast. That the name of it is I'm totally flaky on the name of it right now, but he reads noir fiction, and his dad was a writer of noir fiction, like pulp noir kind of Dashiell Hammett stuff, and he's written plenty of it, and so he reads other authors, like pulp stories, and discusses them. It's really interesting. I really like it. I'm a Dashiell Hammett fan from like way back, and so David's really cool in that regard. The reason I bring up the apes thing actually is the other guest is Christian Horn, who he runs a podcast called Part-Time Fanboy, and Part-Time Fanboy just released last week an episode called Damn Dirty Apes, and that features yours truly and our friend Yivis Cannavale talking about Planet of the Apes. And I know a lot of my friends were like, I didn't know you were such a huge Apes fan. And I love Planet of the Apes. Planet of the Apes is awesome. It's funny, I found them a little later in life. I was aware of them as a kid, but I kind of found them in my early 20s when they put out the box set in like 98, 99. And I was just like, this stuff is brilliant, like really brilliant. I read the book and started getting into it. And I love Planet of the Apes. So we spoke about that this week on his episode. So if you want to hear me blather about Planet of the Apes, go check out the Part-Time Fanboy podcast, and you can hear it. They the previous week, actually, I believe they had David on as a guest, because he contributed to the Planet of the Apes role-playing game Kickstarter. He's one of the authors on that, which is cool again because his father did the novelizations. So it's like there's an ape lineage there. And when he told me that, because I love the sequels. His dad, I believe, did the sequel for Beneath and maybe Escape, but I know Beneath. I'm pretty sure Beneath is a definite yes. And that's awesome to me. Like those 8 movies are really, really wonderful. Yeah. So what does all that have to do with making a podcast? So that's what our panel is going to be at San Diego. It's going to be talking about if you want to do a podcast, you're going to get to speak to 3. Oh, and Jim Higgins is the moderator on it. Jim does not have his own podcast himself, but he is a very talented comic book editor and instructor. He runs the Jim Higgins School of Comics, College of Comics, I believe, technically. And he taught me how to do like your own published one. He doesn't like, it's not like drawing classes. It's literally the guts of putting a comic book together. Really, really valuable stuff. He teaches online. He teaches in person. That's where I met him out here. But he also mainly, I believe, now teaches online. And he's a real good dude. And he put this panel together because he's like, I got all these friends that do these podcasts, but I've got all these other people who are like, I don't even know how to start doing a podcast. So I think when you get that mix of DIY people, which is us, with some industry savvy and real experience, which is, like what David, I think Jim brings, and Christian, he works on the not animation side, I believe art, like the, what do you call the retail side, I believe, for Disney. He's actually a very talented artist. He does a book called Periwinkle Puss, which is just a charming adventures of like a superhero purple cat, hence the name. And he's great. And he does like kid versions of all the superheroes, and he sends those out as Christmas cards. Like he's just a swell guy. I've been on a show a few times. We've done like Black Christmas episodes and so on. And then they bring on this weirdo who talks about G.I. Joe. But they're great dudes, and I'm excited to be doing it with them. And certainly I'm going to be spreading the gospel of G.I. Joe. However, the problem, this is what I learned this week, is that it's at the same time as the G.I. Joe cosplay meetup. So there's a cosplay meetup, where everyone who comes cosplayed as Shipwreck or Bazooka and all that stuff, they have a meetup for everyone to get together for photos, right? They do it for X-Men, they do it for whatever, and the G.I. Joe time is literally the same time as my podcast. So if I have any cosplay listeners that were thinking about doing both, I understand, man. Your cosplay takes precedence, so don't worry about coming to see me. Go to the G.I. Joe cosplay event, which is, if you don't know, that cosplay event is Thursday at 11 a.m. So either you're with me or you're with cosplay. That's what I'm saying. But if you are going, please reach out, man. I would love to meet you. I doubt we're going to be able to get back. I doubt I'm going to be able to get back like to the cosplay area by the time it breaks up. I believe we're scheduled to do a little lunch afterwards. But yeah, my friend John Carl sent me a note. He's like, hey man, I know you're going. Like, here's this cool G.I. Joe cosplay. You're going to want to check that out. I was like, awesome. And I already clicked like I'm going. And then I took a closer look at the date and I went, I'm not going. I'm not going to be there. That's not going to happen. So, but yes. Okay. So here we're roughing in Zartan. I'm not unpleased with this. I could see here that his legs are a little stunted, I think, for the full frame of the body, but that's okay. I've never thought of Zartan as being hulking, to be honest. I don't say that to make excuses for the drawing, but I don't know. What about you guys? I've never thought of Zartan as big, because actors typically aren't large people, because they have to embody, they often have to embody small spaces. And when you're a large frame, when you're a large frame, you're locked into portraying larger frame things. So I've always thought of Zartan as a smaller framed character because he would have to, embody so many other different looks, not necessarily being a large frame dude, but certainly a physical presence, to be sure. He definitely is fit. He is not fit. All right. So that's not terrible. Yeah, so I think that what they're saying here is that I'm going to stop and reset this video, and I'll be right back. All right, and I'm back. So what I was saying is I think, according to the guidelines, they're saying there's a few of these that we can start erasing now. So I'm going to dig in there and get some of these guidelines out of the way. You can see here, like that, those little dotted lines. I believe that's their way of saying it's okay to erase those lines. Like you won't need them really. And they've also removed that baseline as well from the image. So we're gonna remove that too. We're gonna remove these. So we kind of got our form here. You can see that proportions are a little off. That's okay. Proportions are, I believe, they're the kind of thing that, Wolverine, you broke off. They're the kind of things that you get better with time, or you don't, but you adapt to them. And what do I mean by that? What I mean is that if you are someone who, let's say, always draws, I've talked about this before, like Jim Starlin always draws a larger midsection, or you always draw longer legs. If you keep at it, if it doesn't kind of normalize, I think what ends up happening is your other, I don't know if this makes any sense what I'm saying. Your other proportions kind of warp to mask that, because your brain is saying, I draw a stunted midsection, right? Or it's saying I draw stubby, my legs are too stubby. So like I think your brain kind of adapts when you do it a lot. If you draw once a week like I do, I don't think that happens. I'm talking about people who do this all the time and actively work to get better, not yahoos who have a podcast, and appreciate all of you for paying attention. This has been a lot of fun. I don't know how much, I don't know. Like I said, the Cobra Convergence is definitely going to be drawing, and I hope it's received well. So I think we're done with that one. So I think now we just move to, this is again the funny, now you're like, no, just draw them. So I think it's gonna be fun. I hope you receive it well. And I hope the result is going to be entertaining. It's going to be different from what you've been seeing. It's not going to be this. I'm not going to tease it. I did run it by Toilet Teal and say, like, how do you think I should approach it? Should I ramp up to it this week and next week, and then drop whatever whatever? And she was of the mind, and I actually agree with her, to just, the idea that I have, to just go ahead and do it on the week of Cobra Convergence. So that's what we're going to do. So I'm just going to straight up do this idea that I have, the week of Cobra Convergence. So this is Zartan's mid shirt. Yeah, I like it. So what I'm saying is, I believe it's going to be extra long. And I believe, hopefully be entertaining. But if it's fun, if it's something that works, when you see it, maybe I'll do more of it. If it doesn't, maybe I won't. Or maybe I will until I make it work. that's the other thing. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I'm just trying to approximate size of the Zartan arm guards. Yeah, so there's that. That's as much tease I think I can do now. I genuinely don't exactly know what it's going to look like, what it's going to be, but I have a few ideas and I'm working on it. It is time. It is percolating. It's time for the percolator. It's percolating in my brain, and it is going to be flexing muscles that I haven't used in a long time. And hopefully they're there. Hopefully they're entertaining enough. But if they're not, then hey, you get what you pay for, right? All right. So we're drawing his little arm flaps, his little shoulder. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, yeah, there you go. Yeah, his little shoulder pads thingies. So guys, is there? So we're going to. The other thing that I know a lot of people do. Well, I mean, they tell you to do it when a lot of times when you're learning how to draw is use graph paper. Use paper with prearranged lines, so then you can kind of use those lines to bounce off sizes or like locate like where you think things would be on the body. And that works too. I've certainly done that. I haven't done that a lot though. I tend to not care about that. Like I was hanging out. We were with a friend on 4th of July, and I mentioned we were doing this. And is my friend Tom, who's brilliant. He's been on the show. He's great. He's such a super talent. He and his wife Nancy had us over, and we love him so much. And because I was talking about doing drawing, and it's so funny. The first thing he said was like, "Are you any good?" And I was like, well, I don't know. And I showed him a drawing. He's like, "Oh yeah." But the reason I say that is like, I don't know if it's any good. I have no idea, but it's fun, and that's the part that I like. So like, reason I bring that up with the graph paper is I don't care, like if it's perfectly proportioned. Like, am I getting better every week? Am I having fun? Certainly, am I having fun doing it? Yes, the answer is yes. But like, am I learning from whatever? It's not about the final product. Like if I had to turn it in for some, I don't know, some costume, some contest or something, sure, maybe we'd cheat a little bit. Here's a funny story. Years ago, I was a dummy. I didn't understand what was being asked of me. My dad, dad, if you're listening, bless you. My dad was working a construction gig. He was a sprinkler fitter, and shout out to you Springs out there. I know some of you are listeners, and I don't remember where they were working, but apparently there was a parking permit pass that was a pain in the butt to get. And God bless him, he thought of me to forge the parking permit pass, which is, I love it. Like, I love it. Like that, the idea of my dad thinking of me to like, hey, could you, forge it? Except I'm not even joking. In my head, I didn't realize he explained it to me, but I kind of didn't understand the assignment. So like, instead of doing like what you would see in the movies of like a real precision forge of a parking pass, I remember I just like I drew it, and it was kind of close. Like, it wasn't terrible, but like it wasn't by any stretch of the imagination a passable forgery. It was a drawing of a parking pass, if that checks. And I remember being like, hey, and then as time went by, I'm looking for my pencil sharpener. So it's like, I share this now because whenever I think about it, I remember what that picture looked like. And I'm like, either whoever checked those was blind, or my dad was too kind and to because he saw me working. I put some time in on it. Um, my dad was too kind to like be like, this is unusable. Like this, it wasn't Ocean's 11. Let's put it that way. And I always think of that because years later I was asked to draw and I did, and actually I think I did a very good job with them, technical box art for a company that I worked for, and it was like unpacking and packing instructions that they needed done, and I was like, let me take a crack, and I did it, and I did it very cleanly, and the whole 9 yards. And they used them. They did quite a few. They freelanced me even after they fired me because I was a terrible salesman. It was a firing mutual quitting. It was like, do you really want to work here? And I was like, I'm terrible. I'm really bad at this. So no. And they were like, okay, we like you, but you're not very good. But they kept me around, and I did their box art for a few years. So that was kind of neat. And those I would say were 100% technical. Like there was precision. The lines were clean, like I used ink to give it a, very professional look, so on and so forth. And, I wouldn't say those parking passes were the same. Anyway, so that's a funny story, but when I reflect on that, I do think like, yeah, I kind of appreciate my dad bringing me in. I think I would have been like 15 or 16 at the time, bringing me in on the whatever the Ocean's heist was going on with this parking permit. It was definitely for his job, and it was some lot that they weren't supposed to be in or something. I don't even know, but like I definitely appreciated him like trying to rope me in, but I don't think they ever used that. I can't imagine anyone being fooled by that unless the guy was like on a bender. So I say that to say it's not the result when we're doing this kind of stuff. It's the journey. The parking pass was the result. Let's be very clear about that. That's fun. That's a fun Zartan head. And by the way, today's pencil, I'm using one of my technical pencils. And I found this in a tin that I had stashed away in my drawer with some like emergency pencil stuff. And it's a Techmatic T4, but you could put any lead in it. And frankly, I don't know what lead is in here. So I really genuinely don't know, because I know I've been talking about lead and stuff. So I don't know. It's a little softer, but it's not super hard. But it's not super charcoaly soft. So this feels frankly like 2-ish. But I'm not really sure. So I apologize for not knowing that. But the lead was already in the pencil, and I decided to use this pencil today. So we're doing some bicep definition here. And that is, it's the other funny thing is sometimes to my eye, the guidelines end up giving body and form to the final product of the image. And I always have to resist that, because that's not the point. Like, they're supposed to go away, and the form, what you leave on the page is supposed to give enough form. And so sometimes I'll when I do, primarily when I use blue pencil, I would get lost in that a little bit. Like, the blue would take my eye, and the black of the ink wouldn't give enough. I wouldn't give enough form with the ink black, if that makes any sense, because the blue was filling in the form for my eye. If that statement makes any sense. And so then when it would be reproduced, and Xeroxed out, all that blue disappears, and so you're only left with the ink. And then I would go, oh, that's a really sparse picture. Oops, because I didn't really do much of the form of the figure. I only because in my head I was, but that was really the blue, the blue outline pencil. And in this case, it would be like the not doing enough of this harder pressure. But I think for this guy, I think we're achieving it just fine. Also, if you notice, I'm working my way down so that try not to smudge. Last week I had a ton of, on my arm, ton of pencil on my arm. So by working down, you can kind of avoid that. And if you work from that direction to that direction. I know it sounds simple, but sometimes it's good to say it out loud, get a good reminder. Let's see where we're at with the camera. There we go. So I had a birthday, and my wife, Toiletille, awesome. She got me G.I. Joe boxer shorts, which are amazing. It's the cover to issue number 1. So I wore Herb Trimpe all weekend. That was pretty great. I also got a t-shirt that one of those, you guys know the shirt, the knowing is half the battle, and breaks it down into a pie chart shirt. We've seen those. She got me one of those. That's always great. It's always good to have more Joe t-shirts. I'm probably gonna be all Joe decked out at Comic-Con, because I imagine I'll pick a new one up there while I'm there. I don't know what yet. So look for a lot of G.I. Joe representation this time, which I like. Yeah, she also, as a gag, so last year she had gotten me, I have a car that is a black Hyundai, and we call it Snake Eyes because it 100% looks like the kind of car Snake Eyes would if Snake Eyes were a reasonable SUV. Snake Eyes would be this car. There's like red tinting on it. It's black and gray. Like it looks like Snake Eyes. So last year she got me an Arishikage sticker for it, which sits in the back and represents. And then she got me a bunch of Wolf. What are those? Air fresheners, right? Timberwolf, get it? So Timber hangs in. I'm not an air freshener from the dashboard guy, except when it's Timberwolf. So Timberwolf, the air freshener, hangs over my rear mirror, and the car is called Snake Eyes. So this year, as a gag, she got me the Nicolas Cage movie Snake Eyes. So, which, listen, one, I said, I just saw Longlegs, loved it. Nick is awesome in it. 2, I love Nick Cage. I really do. I've always enjoyed his stuff. Never not loved him. I was a fan of Face Off, unironically. And 3, Snake Eyes, the movie, is Brian De Palma, and it's actually really a good movie, and it's told in real time, I believe. I haven't rewatched it yet. It's been a while since I watched it. Or am I thinking of Nick? No, I think Snake Eyes is told real time, and it's, what was it? There's a throne boxing match, something like that, and I know Gina, not Carano, Carlo Gugino's in it. That's all. It's been a long time since I watched it, but I like Snake Eyes. Anyway, so I got Snake Eyes, the other Snake Eyes. It's crazy to say this, the better Snake Eyes. I know. Don't shoot me. Yeah. So we also got all those coming up in San Diego. There's all those exclusives to get a hold of. I haven't really mapped out exactly. The only thing I really kind of really need to get is the Once a Man Cobra Commander. That's like, if I don't get that, that'll be a complete fail on my part. So I don't think that'll be a problem, because I guess they do this, and I'm registered for it, but I just haven't chosen it yet. A lottery thing where you put points. If you're not familiar with it, so it's to keep it from being a complete nightmare of trampling people at these booths. You kind of put points, and then they pull your name out of out of a lottery, and it's you wager the amount of points. Like, how important is it to you to to get in the Hasbro exclusive, and so you put all your points that day because that's the one you want, and it's kind of a gamble. So he's kind of high waisted, this Zartan. Yeah, we're kind of losing the thread here. There we go. That might help put me back on track here. Drawing his hips, and I'm matching his whole crotchal region. So what's happening is I see what I did. I gave too much of a bow here on his waist. It should have been a little flatter. That's exactly what's going on there. So I'm going to go in there and erase it. Oh man, we're running late too. You know what? I got 10 minutes left on this timer. I'm going to do it. We're going to get it. There we go. I think that's a little better. Yeah. I had too much of a bow. This might be a little bit of an overcorrection. I think I overcorrected a little bit as far as the angle on the belt, if you're watching along. But yeah, that Cobra Commander, the Hasbro stuff, I'm real excited for. I've talked about Super 7 last week. I don't really care about, the Zartan be neat. The $50 one, the ultimate version of Zartan. That would be pretty neat. So that one looks pretty good. So I'm probably going to get that guy. But that snake eyes I don't really need. And I'm going to try to get the Skybound G.I. Joe Energon Transformer issues too. I'm not as I was worried about those. I don't know. I to be honest and transparent, I haven't been buying a lot of physical comics in this last year. I've kind of switched to reading digital. I do buy the G.I. Joe books though, but I haven't picked up Scarlet yet because I haven't been to the comic shop. So times are changing, my habits are changing, and which is weird because I went to the comic shop every week for better part of 40 years, which is really weird. Is there something that you guys did, like ritualistically? Maybe not 40 years, but like for a very long time. Like, did you always, I don't even know, have oatmeal for breakfast, then all of a sudden you decided to change it, that kind of a thing? It's weird. You like, it takes a little while to adjust. I'm a creature of habit. I don't know about you guys. I'm definitely a creature of habit. So his boots, his boots really look like Cobra Commander armor boots. At least the way these are drawn, it's just from my memory. These probably are very Zartan correct. I'm probably misremembering them, but these really feel like they've got a Cobra Commander armor vibe to them. All right. Yeah, so those are the exclusives I'm looking forward to. And then as far as like what I'm looking to buy, I am very close. I'm very excited to say this. I'm very close to finishing a couple different Silver Age Marvel series. And I'm talking like big ones, like Captain America and Iron Man. I literally have like 15 or 20 issues of each to go. So that, like Iron Man, Daredevil, I'm very close on. Like some of the real chief ones. My Thor is good, but it's a little wonky. And with Iron Man and Cap, it doesn't take into account the tail stuff. But their actual regular series, Iron Man and Cap, very close to having a complete run. Daredevil, Iron Man, Cap, Avengers, not as close, but I made some good strides last year, like real good strides. And X-Men, I only need of the full series, what do we got? We got 5 minutes. A full series, I need a handful. I'll probably need like 50 issues for the full series. But just of the modern stuff, I only have 2 issues left. I had 3 or 4 at the last show, and I bought 2. I forget. I think I bought 2. And then I only have like two left to get. So I think I'm probably going to end up knocking those out. So that's going to be exciting. I love when I get to finish a collection, finish a run. I wish I wish that it was more G.I. Joe talk about comics, like for me to collect. I've got them all. Like there's the ones that I don't have are ones that I never bank on seeing. You know, it's the issues, the collector issues from the cons, you know, like G.I. Joe versus Cobra, stuff like that. I've got a lot of those. There's a handful that I'm missing. So I look for those when I go to Joe shows or in random back issue bins at certain comic shops, and occasionally they'll have them. But for the most part, I don't plan on getting them because I generally don't see them. So it's nothing that I'm going to hunt for. And then to ask someone for it, it's almost would take too much time explaining what it is, because I don't think a lot of people know what they are. And then their search, it's like search engine poison to search for like I believe it's called G.I. Joe versus Cobra. Like to search for that is search engine poison. So you have to like convention anyway. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are wrapping up here, and I think I'm over a half hour for sure, but I'm also doing full body, which I didn't think I would be able to get to. So we are, as the kids say, done. That's a full body Zartan. At least, you know, there's stuff I could go in and correct and tweak, you know, and here and there. And like, here you go, his abs. You got to give him his abs. Don't begrudge a man his abs. Yeah, but there you go. Full body Zartan. It's, yeah. What do you say, kids? I mean, you know, ain't the worst, but it's fun. We knocked it out. We did it together. That is the cover piece. I didn't realize it was. Yeah. So there you go. There's Zartan, everybody. You too can draw. I forget who it was. I saw someone on Instagram. They said they were inspired by me in their drawing. I appreciate that. I really do. I really want everyone to pick up your pencil and draw. Draw G.I. Joe, because why not? What else is there to do? Right? That's it. Boom. You know what? Rest in peace, Shannon Doherty. I wish I had a Shannon Doherty sticker. I don't. But you get a Dylan in memory of Shannon Doherty, Zartan. You get a Dylan. So rest in peace, Shannon, and everyone. Thank you so much for listening. I'm really excited to do next week. I'm not exactly sure what next week's going to be, but I know what. Figuring out what the following week's going to be. And remember, if you're at San Diego, please let me know beforehand, and we'll stop and say hi. It's going to be great. So now you Joe, and Joeing is half the battle.